Ladies and gentlemen, this is Jason Lewis, the producer of the From the Shadows podcast. I would like to welcome you back to this week's episode of the program, where we will continue our interview with our guest, William Haddix of the Central Ohio UFO Reporting Center, where Mr. Haddix was just about to share with us two of his personal paranormal experiences. So folks, sit back, relax, and enjoy the conclusion of this insightful interview.
Yeah, these are definitely some interesting stories just to hear, but yeah, try to imagine going through it. I was 15 at the time for the first story here, and me and a friend of mine decided we wanted to go out to the lake, which is about 3 miles from my house. It's a Hargis Lake, A&W Marion State Park. And we were going to walk around the lake. It's about 5 miles or so. We have done it hundreds of times, I'm sure, over the years. I mean, we knew every stick and rock in the whole place and grew up out there. Well, like I said, we were just messing around. It was summertime, really hot. And as kids, you know, you don't really think about, well, I better save some of the water I've got for later. I might get thirsty later. No, we drank everything pretty much right away. So we're out there. We cross the dam, and you get clear across it, and then that's when it actually starts on the 5 mile trail. So you take a left, and you're walking through the woods and on the path and all that. Just whatever, nothing out of the ordinary. Well, you go not too far, I would say half mile, maybe, if that far. And the path cuts through a farm. Yeah, not very much of it, just maybe a couple 100 yards into the farm. But right off the trail, I mean, maybe 50 feet, if that, there's a farmhouse. Been there forever. Just a little tiny house, nothing fancy, something like you might see in an old Civil War painting or something, what it kind of reminded me of, a little two-story, but just really small. And I had been by it, like I said, tons of times, never really paid any attention to it. It was just there. No different than looking at a tree or something. Always there. Well, that particular day, we decided to stop right there. We was just across from it, still on the path, underneath this big oak tree, just kind of getting out of the sun. And we're both talking, thinking, man, we'd like to have something to drink. You know, pretty thirsty. But, of course, nothing out there. So we're just standing there, like I said, talking, and all of a sudden, this woman comes out of the house. I really can't describe her any more than saying like your grandma, like Aunt B, you know, off of Andy Griffith.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. She comes out and asks us what our trouble was, what was wrong. And we're like, well, we're just thirsty, you know, but that was all. So she told us to wait a minute, goes back in the house. I don't know how much time passed. Couldn't have been maybe 5 minutes or so. And she comes back out with these two tall glasses, real heavy, like, I wouldn't say leaded crystal, but very heavy glasses. I collect antique glass, but very just heavy, tall glasses, full lemonade. She goes back in. Well, we're standing there kind of looking at each other like, well, that was kind of strange, but, you know, cool. You know, we got something to drink anyway. So we sat there and drank them. And we talked for a second. We're like, we better leave her alone. You know, it's pretty hot out here and stuff. She don't need to be out here, older lady. So we sat him down in front of her front door, just kind of said thanks, just kind of waved at the house more or less, and walked on. And we didn't really say much more about it after that. It was just, it kind of struck us as a little odd that, but we figure, well, you know, maybe she just doesn't stay there all the time, or who knows. So just after that, really never gave it much more of a thought. Well, about a month and a half or so went by. We were back out there, same spot again. And I saw a guy that was working the farm. He was working on a tractor or something. And I hollered at him, and he come over, and he said, yeah, can I help you? I said, yeah, I got a question. He said, yeah. I said, that house right there, that little house. I said, we were out here, you know, about a month or so ago, and the lady that we spoke with there, we wanted to thank her, but we didn't, and we felt kind of bad about the whole scenario. And he's looking at us like, what are you talking about? I said, the little old lady that gave us the lemonade, we wanted to tell her thanks. We felt kind of guilty. That guy looked at us, and said, I don't know what to tell you boys, but the woman you described, she died 50 years before you boys were here. Ain't nobody lived in that house since. It's empty.
Oh my goodness.
And
Oh,
like
oh,
ground. So years later, I had this probably been within the last 10 years now. I think I had told the story one night on another podcast on a Halloween show or something. And it got me thinking about it. So I'd done what little research I could and found out that 50 years prior to that was the same year that area out there, which would have been her farm, the state bought it and flooded it and turned it into a lake. It used to be a cornfield. So I don't know if there's anything to that whole part of it or not, but they say paranormal things can happen, around heightened activity in that person's life, and that would have definitely been a big thing of her life, whether it would have been happy or maybe not so happy.
yeah.
Depending on how much they might have paid her.
So the guy just says, I don't know what to tell you, and turns and walks away.
Exactly, because I found out that the people that run that farm don't own it. The owners are actually up in Columbus, but I've never been able to get in contact with them.
Holy moly. So and I kind of told you about the story that I experienced where, I actually thought there was I just thought there was a little girl there, and, she nodded at me and smiled, and I went about my business. And then a couple minutes later, I'm like, asking the lady in the office with me, hey, where's your daughter? And they're like, what are you talking about? So it's one of those deals where if you didn't ask, you'd went the rest of your life thinking some lady came out and gave you lemonade.
Exactly. And I also found out too that during that same time period, the 50 years prior that the guy had told us, that in this region of the country in the summer, lemonade was the common drink to offer a guest. Like now you might ask somebody want a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Well, at that time, lemonade was the thing because people like to show off the bounty of whatever they were growing, around them. So that would have been the reason for it being lemonade versus something else.
And if you'd have been put on the stand at trial, you'd have said, yeah, that was an old lady that came out and gave you.
There was not. That's why I don't have a lot of detail about her. There was no reason to pay attention. It seemed as normal as your own grandma handing you something or, whatever.
And there was definitely lemonade.
Definitely.
And the glasses were cold? I mean, like, it was cold lemonade?
Ice cold.
Oh, my goodness. That is great.
Which is something I never even thought about until just now when you mentioned about the cold glasses. Yeah. There was no way in that house for any refrigeration. There was no electric to it.
Oh, my goodness.
I never thought of that until just this moment.
Oh, my.
There's never been any electric. They are refurbishing the house right now. Somebody is.
Oh, boy. Well, good luck to them with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is a great story. That really is.
I'm telling you, that's one of the best ones I've ever heard.
Yeah, right there. Definitely.
So go ahead and let everybody hear the other story.
Right. These have got to be like guardian angels or something. I don't know, but it's the best way I can describe it.
Or just somebody screwing with you. I mean, either way.
I don't. The second one, though, was in 2005. I was in just outside of Norfolk, Virginia. It was Newport News, actually, right by the shipyard. I was staying with some friends and stuff, and we got separated somehow or another. So I'm kind of by myself, not a dime to my name. And at that time, anyway, you could ride the city bus anywhere within about a 15-mile radius for $1.50. And I had no money. So I walked into the bus terminal because it's not the best neighborhood down there, to say the least. And I'm standing there thinking, what am I going to do? So I was just kind of looking at the pamphlets they had on the wall and whatnot, and saw the lady that was working the ticket counter. I probably was, I don't know, 5, maybe 10 feet at most away from her. And this guy comes in. So I turned around, just hear somebody walking in, you're going to turn around and look.
Mm.
And he comes up to me and we start talking. He's looks like your typical homeless person, like right out of a movie or something, dirty, brown, ragged clothes, and a lot taller than me. I'm only 5'4". This guy had to be about 6 foot. So the lady at the ticket counter could have easily saw him over top of me. So we're talking, and he asked me, he says, "What seems to be your trouble?" I said, I need to get back where I'm staying, but I'm broke. So he gets in his pocket, and he says, "Here," and he tries to hand me $1.50. And I said, "No." I said, "I can't take your money." And he says, "Look," he says, "this $1.50 will get you out of your situation, right?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Whether I have it or I don't, tomorrow I'm going to be in the same situation. Mine will not change. Take it." So I took it. I turned around, walked a couple steps or so to the ticket counter. Like I said, I wasn't that far from her. Hand her the money. She gives me the little bus card. And I turn back around. The guy's gone. So I look back at her and I said, "Well, where was that? Where'd he go?" And she's looking at me all weird. And I was like, "That gentleman I was talking to just a minute ago." She said, "Sir, you're the only person who's been here all night. I thought you was on the phone or something. I didn't even have a cell phone with me." He said, "I thought you was talking to somebody on the phone or something." He said, "There's been nobody here."
Oh, my goodness.
So I asked her real quick. I said, "How long till the bus gets here?" She said, "Oh, about 10 minutes or so." I said, "All right." So I ran outside, looked up and down the street, ran across to the 7-Eleven and asked the lady that was working there if they had seen anybody. That guy was nowhere to be seen. Gone. And I've always wondered after the fact, I always wondered, like, at the end of the night when she had to count her drawer, was that money still there? Or what was the dates on that money?
Yes, that's what I was just thinking, too. What would be the dates on that money? Was it new money or what?
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, my goodness.
Because I've collected coins over the years, gold, silver, that kind of thing. And the quarters, didn't seem anything out of the ordinary. The dollar bill was crumpled up, so I didn't try to unfold it or anything. I just handed it to her. And I didn't know when the bus was going to be there or anything. So I wanted to make sure I had a ticket to jump on it when it did show up. So I just handed her the money the way it was handed to me.
Right. Oh,
After
man.
I often wondered about that. I'm like, man, I wish I could have checked that. But so yeah, my experiences have been positive.
See, I think you're missing. I think you're missing the boat here. Okay, I think you need to go and maybe start investigating ghosts because you're 2 for 2, man. You're 2 for 2. Holy smokes!
I'm sure Jerry can use him on the investigative team.
Do you want him? Do you really want him on your investigative team? He's going to ruin it because he's going to see something right away and just think it's a guy.
Now I have had a UFO experience at one point as well. So
okay. So
I
tell
can
us that.
Okay, this was actually at the same lake where the lemonade lady happened at. Of course, this was after the fact, but this was in 2000. Let's see, I want to say about 2006 or so. Me and my mom and dad had our dog with us. We went out to the lake to watch the lunar eclipse. And there was other people out there too, even though none of them would ever talk to me about this object. But anyhow, we were in the car waiting for the eclipse to start, and I saw this fireball, best I can describe it, up in the sky, bright orange, almost like some of those pictures of the sun you see from NASA.
Mm-hmm.
That real orange. This was about the size of, I'd say, a basketball if you held it up. I mean, it was large. And you know how you'll see a plane or something fly toward the moon, and it looks like it's going to hit it, but when it gets close enough, you can tell the plane's a lot lower. Well,
yeah.
in this case, the object actually covered part of the moon, and then went backwards.
What?
It does that a couple times, and When the object first appeared, I should back up a second. I had a cell phone. It was one of those Nokia 3310s, them indestructible phones, and it wouldn't work here though. I bought it actually in Virginia. Never had it activated. We didn't have AT&T here at the time for cell phone service, so there was no way for it to work whatsoever. Well, as this object got in front of us, directly in front, when it was blocking out part of the moon, my phone got a full signal on it, and I was able to call my grandma. I talked to her for 5 minutes till the phone got so hot I had to drop it.
Oh my goodness.
So this object, I couldn't even begin to say how fast it was going. Not real fast, not really any faster than a standard airplane, I guess. And every 100, 200 yards that it would get away from me, which would be toward my right, actually headed directly toward the lemonade lady's house, that same area, I would lose a bar signal on that phone. Well, eventually this object's out of sight. The phone's completely no signal no more. All the dice lights came on in Mom's car. We watched the eclipse and all that and go home. And I had even asked people that was beside us with their cameras that were trying to take pictures of the eclipse and stuff, and they all denied ever seeing anything. They didn't want to talk. So, I don't know, a little while, a couple months went by or so, and we were down in Chillicothe, me and Dad was, and I saw where they had opened an AT&T cell phone store down there. I think it's still there. So I took the phone in there, and the guy plugs it into their computer thing. He was going to check the internal specs or whatever. And he says, where did you get this? I said, well, I bought it from an AT&T store down in Virginia. He said, there's a problem. And I'm thinking to myself, well, what's the problem? He said, there's nothing in this phone. It's empty. He said, it looks like a display model to me. I couldn't activate it if I wanted to. There's nothing in it. It's white.
Oh, my God.
I wish I still had the phone. I lost it when I moved. I wish I still had it. But he said everything was completely gone. The only thing I ever did with it was played a couple games on it, like Snake and whatever else it had. But he said that there was no way possible to activate it. He said the whole internals of it was gone. I don't know what to really make of that, but that was the only real, crazy UFO thing that I had ever experienced. I did have a strange, I don't even know what I've actually put it on my website as well. Back, let's see, right before Christmas, a buddy of mine come over, and we were talking out in the driveway, and I was facing the street, and he had his back to the street, and there was some very light clouds, and there was an object about 100 foot up, best estimate I could gather, and it looked the same as if you ever saw any military footage of like the helicopters where they're shooting missiles and rockets down toward the ground at like a 45-degree angle.
Yeah,
it was kind of like that, except the light was not what I would call fire. That's a question I always ask people when they mention light. Is it like fire type of light or light like man-made, like something that would be out of a car headlight, flashlight, that kind of a light?
Okay.
A power source. And that's what it looked like, what I saw, but it was extremely bright, though. Brighter than any light I had seen. It only lasted about a second and disappeared. So that was definitely odd, and there was no aircraft nowhere in the area at that time.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Did you ever, go back and try to piece together and investigate that experience you had with your mom and dad there?
I couldn't, because the flight radars and stuff that I got access to, they won't go that far back.
Oh, boy. Okay.
They only go back, I believe it's about a year. So,
wow.
So I'm really no way to know. But my area, though, definitely is a hot spot, because about 7 miles north of me, there's a road, and it's called Haggerty Road. It's right outside of Asheville. And that's the most active spot in the whole entire state for UFO reports, since they have been cataloged since the 70s.
Now, do you think it's because you guys are relatively close to some military air bases there?
That's my thought. That's But also, though, the first reported, what you would say close encounter happened, less than 10 miles from me. And it was actually a police officer, Bruce Stevenson. He had a hog farm, and a UFO hovered right above his hog barn, and according to the report, lit up the whole inside of the barn bright blue. And I guess it really affected a lot of his animals. So there's a lot of activity. The movie that was out years back, Close Encounter of the Third Kind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's Ohio based. From northern Ohio, where Portage County, the cops actually chased a UFO clear to Pennsylvania.
Well, I often wondered if if we are being visited by intelligent life from other galaxies or other planets or whatever, however you want to put it. I mean, they're probably, if they're checking us out, they're going to check out some of the stuff they can relate to, and that would be our aircraft and our ability to travel in space too. So where were they going to go? They're going to go to Area 51, Wright-Patterson, whatever other military. I mean, it always stands to reason they're going to check out what we can do. I mean, that's what we would do if we were going to visit wherever they came from.
My thought was always this, anything, no matter what it is, if it has a conscious mind, like an animal or us or anything, everything is curious.
Yep.
And that's the reason we go on a lot of vacations. We like take trips and travel around the country or go see other countries and culture because we're curious. If we had the technology to go to another planet, like Mars, if we had the technology, people would go because we're curious, wonder what it's like on Mars.
Oh, no doubt.
Or any other place you want to pick. So maybe it's nothing more than that. Maybe they don't have an agenda. Maybe they're just genuinely curious. And how many places, and I know we've all done it, that we visited as a kid, and then when you get a little older, you go back and revisit it just because you want to see how it changed. Like, I wonder about this location since I was here 20 years ago.
Yep. There's a lot of places like that. Here's my take on it. I think that if we're being visited, we have been visited for a long time. I mean, I don't think this is a new phenomenon, something that's happened over the past 50, 60 years. I think they've been here for a long time.
I agree. It's just now with technology, and even with the technology back, even, like during the Roswell crash back in the 40s,
right?
News still traveled a lot faster back then than it would have, in ancient Egypt or
yes, exactly.
Back in those days, it could have took forever to get any word spread.
Well, let's be honest, guys. If intelligent life is visiting us on any given day, they could probably just be extremely disappointed in what they're finding and saying, we'll come back in another 5 or 10 years and see if these guys have straightened up, because can you imagine from the outside looking in at some of the crazy stuff that goes on in our world that they might just say, hey, leave these guys alone. We don't want to be infected by whatever these people are suffering from.
They've seen what we've done with this place. I think they would want to do anything in their power to keep us from getting to wherever they're at.
That's probably a very good point.
Y'all screwed up your place. Don't come mess with it.
Yeah, like a Star Trek Prime directive or something. You guys aren't ready to go amongst the stars yet. We're going to keep you here.
I think I can't really think of anything that we would have that a civilization that advanced would need or want.
No.
I would think it would be minerals. I would think it would be the minerals that are within this planet. Something that they may have had and on their world, but maybe running out of or can't synthesize. So they want to get some original minerals that were formed so that they can try to solve some kind of problem they're having. You never know. Something like that.
I think they probably really enjoyed professional football for the first 30, 40 years of it. And the last 5, we've screwed that up so bad
Oh,
that
you
they
ain't
can't
kidding.
even enjoy.
Oh, you're not
They
kidding.
can't even enjoy. They can't even enjoy that.
Yeah, I don't even want to get into that conversation. Oh, man.
Well, on that note, William, speaking of people that are curious, if anybody's curious about, checking out your Facebook page, your website, listening to you on the podcast that you're a regular guest on, you want to let everybody know how they can find you and listen to you. If they want to check out some more stuff, or if they want to report something.
Yeah, my website is Central Ohio UFO Reporting Center and it's US. Now, I went with .us because that cost me 88 cents, and .com they wanted almost $100. I went cheap. But
Uh,
if you scroll down to the very bottom of my homepage, it'll have the links for Facebook and the YouTube channel, and so you can find out everything that way. Also on the homepage is the link at the top to where you can report a UFO or any other strange anomaly. If you just want to leave me a comment of something or a question or anything, on the bottom of my homepage is also a comment section that you can fill out. But nothing is posted publicly unless I put it there myself. So nothing's automatically put up. So you don't have to worry about your personal information ever being out there. And one of my things I've always been real adamant about is if you report something, I will be in touch within 24 hours or less. I will get back with you.
That's fantastic.
And make sure the most important information you could possibly leave is some contact info. A lot of people forget to leave me their email or a phone number, and it's tricky to get in touch.
And
so that's the main things.
And William, you mentioned you had a YouTube channel. Do you want to talk about that, or do you have a link for that on the bottom of your website?
It's also at the bottom of the website. There's not much on it at the moment. Mainly what I do with it is, since I'm not on every podcast, which is Paranormal Road, which you can find on Podbean, and Odyssey One has it, and
oh, it's on every. I found it on Spotify too.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's pretty much everywhere.
And any podcast that I'm directly on myself, I will upload the entire podcast to my YouTube channel.
Okay.
That way, keep everything kind of cataloged, or any other podcast that I might be on, like this one here or the Ohio Mysteries. I put all those on there as well.
That's awesome.
Yep.
That's awesome. So, well, William, thanks for joining us tonight, and we'll be looking forward. We'll check in with you periodically and see if anything new comes across your desk or in your inbox there about some potential UFO sightings in the state of Ohio and or anywhere, I guess, around the world, since you are investigating them everywhere. And I definitely, if you run into somebody that gives you some water, some money that's unexpected, we want to hear about that story, because I'm pretty sure it's a ghost. So.
Yes.
So, but thanks for joining us tonight, and we're looking forward to hearing from you again. And everybody out there, get a hold of William. He's your man. If you got something that you've seen in the night sky or in the daytime and you can't explain it, I have a feeling William's going to figure out what it is. So,
Do my best.
I have no doubt. So,
oh yeah.
Thanks, William, for joining us, and I'm looking forward to the next time we get to talk to you.
Thanks. It was my pleasure.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right, everybody. Have a good night, good morning, whatever it is, and we'll talk to you later.
Absolutely. You take care.
Yep.
Bye. Ladies and gentlemen, a final word. Please visit us on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/From the Shadows Podcast, and on our Instagram page at instagram.com/From the Shadows Podcast. You can visit our webpage at FromTheShadowsPodcast.GoDaddySites.com, or contribute to our Facebook discussion page called After the Shadows, and tweet us on our Twitter feed at twitter.com/podcast_from. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to hearing from you all. Until next time, never shy away from the darkness or what may be lurking in the shadows. We are out.